Broadcasting live from the Business RadioX studio, it's time for the GNFCC 400 Insider. Connect, build, and grow with the Greater North Fulton Chamber of Commerce.
Hello, and welcome to the GNFCC 400 Insider, the monthly radio show and podcast presented by the Greater North Fulton Chamber. I'm Rebekah Anderson, Vice President at the Greater North Fulton Chamber, and today we'll be highlighting our 2023 NextGen Young Professionals Mentor Match Program. GNFCC's Mentor Match Program pairs mentors and mentees across the North Fulton region to share knowledge, develop leadership, and foster relationships. Participants enjoy mutually beneficial pairings that expand their skill sets and often turn into long-lasting connections. And now I'm excited to introduce my guest joining me today, one of our mentor match pairs. So first I'll introduce Miss Paula Fine, Client Relations Director at Trinity Life at Home.
Welcome. Thanks for having me.
Thanks for being here. And next we have Fabiola Clermont, Event Supervisor at the Chattahoochee Nature Center.
Hi, thanks for having me.
Thanks for being here, Fabi. All right. Well, let's get started. Why don't, Paula, you go first. Tell us a little bit about yourself, your background, where you're at in your career, what got you here today at this table.
So I always make a joke that I invented the word pivot before COVID because I have pivoted so much in my life. Went to UGA, go Dogs.
Go Dogs.
Graduated with a child family development degree. So I became a child life specialist. I helped hospitalized children, started 2 programs back in I won't even tell you the years, back in South Florida. My dad's a pediatric pulmonologist, so I loved healthcare. Never wanted to be a doctor or nurse. Just wanted to help in a healthcare environment.
That's wonderful.
Yeah. And I also love music. So I also was going to be a music therapist, but I put that aside and became the child life. And throughout my career, so I got to Georgia, and throughout my career, I've been special events coordinators and volunteer coordinator for nonprofit.
Wonderful.
So nonprofit was in my heart. But what led me to Trinity Life at Home, which is home care, it's not something that you wake up one day and say, I'm going to work in a home care agency.
Sure.
I had worked for a hospice company. And they went through some changes and closed an inpatient unit. And one of my volunteers recommended Mr. Bill Holbrook, who is my boss, to possibly call him up. So that's what happened back in February 2019.
Wow. Isn't it lovely how people connect us together like that?
It is amazing. That's why I love the chamber.
Hey, she read that completely correctly. Thank you for that. And Fabi, how about a little bit about you?
Sure. It feels like I was just here. So I graduated from University of Georgia as well.
Oh, go Dogs. I didn't know we had so many dogs in the house.
With a degree in wildlife biology. I thought I was going to be a wildlife biologist or a wildlife vet. And I guess I also pivoted like Paula did. After working with the Park Service in West Virginia, I came back to Georgia and I found the Nature Center. And then I just realized that I loved planning things, organizing things, doing events, doing the back end of that, but also being able to connect people to nature. So not having to completely pivot away from what my original passion was, which is, environmental conservation, stewardship, and education. But also, kind of still going down that road. Mm-hmm. And my current supervisor, Tamara Kim, and she's a chamber member, and she had recommended the Leadership North Fulton program to me, the Mentor Match program to me, and she has been, just instrumental in getting me involved in this organization, and she's the reason I met Paula. So
look at there, people just bringing it together. I love it. Well, tell us a little bit, while we're talking about getting involved with the chamber, how you got involved with the chamber, Paula.
So when I was in the nonprofit world, there were some of those companies that said, oh, the North Fulton Chamber would be great, but I wasn't consistent, right? Mm-hmm. I came a little bit. But when I became the client relations director with Trinity, the first thing Bill said is, hey, you're going to be going to the chamber meetings. And I'm like, cool. So every Wednesday, I'm there at 7:30. Yep.
Doing your Pro Alliance thing.
I'm doing my Pro Alliance. Plus, supporting the WellStar Luncheon. Those things are amazing to learn so much about what's going on in your community. And I was very grateful to Miss Callie who reached out. She felt with all the stuff that I was about and put me with this lovely young woman. It was a great match. So it felt really good to be connected. Now it's been almost 4.5 years with the chamber.
That's awesome. We love to hear that. And Fabi, how about you?
So I kind of have a similar, like mentor that was like, you're going to go do this program. So Tamara, she basically said, hey, this would be a great opportunity for you to really learn, grow. And I started with the Leadership Fulton program, and we graduated in June, I believe, of this year.
Mm-hmm.
And since then, I volunteered to be on the alumni committee, as well as doing the mentor match program with Paula. And I've gone to, like the NextGen meetings and the luncheons, and just trying to really figure out how I can get more involved, because I don't live in North Fulton. I work in North Fulton, and I just learned so much about everything that goes on in North Fulton and the community through the chamber.
Yeah. I find that it's so easy to work and just go home and live your life and not be involved. But when you are plugged in, you're so much more emotionally invested in what happens around you. And I think the environment, everybody benefits from an environment when people really care about what's going on, business-wise, policy-wise, all of those things. So great. Wonderful that you guys are so heavily involved, and we appreciate that at the chamber. We all know that mentorship is an important aspect of careers. We develop people through practical advice, encouragement, support. Let's talk about the people who have helped mentor you in your life. Tell us about the impact somebody had on your professional and personal development.
So first, I really have to thank my parents. My dad is not with us anymore. It's been 12 years. But both my parents were big supporters of whatever I wanted to achieve in my life. And I think that's important. Yeah. I always say I'm blessed to have had parents that were very supportive. But my father, being a pediatric pulmonologist, I got it. I understood like anatomy. He came to my anatomy class at Georgia. It was unbelievable. It was a really hard class. But he taught me things in our home, and I like to share because this is his legacy. They're called the 5 C's, and this is how I try to live my life. And this is why I think this is great with a mentorship. Character, because when you have good character, anything can happen. Courage, commitment, caring, and communication. Those 5 C's in life, if you take that with you, you can succeed, you can be the best person. I just love it. So that was my first big mentor, my daddy.
Lovely. That's lovely.
And then I have a woman that worked at Children's Healthcare of Atlanta that I still am friends with. She was like in between my mom's age and my, so she's could be my mom, but she's amazing. And she was such a good mentor to me as a child life specialist. I actually did live TV shows at the hospital. I had stopped the clinical stuff and became like an on-air, talent kind of at the hospital. So
you're hospital famous.
I'm hospital famous, yeah.
Very cool.
But what's unbelievable, one of the women that would come on my show regularly is the wildlife director at the Chattahoochee Nature Center. There. And when I told Fabi, she had her come over, hadn't seen her in like over 10 years. We both have aged just a little, but it was awesome. And I've kept it, I just love the Chattahoochee Nature Center, but anyway, I kind of digressed, but that's what's incredible about it. But the mentor at the hospital was so fantastic because she taught me that, just be honest with people, have open and honest communication, and you'll get the respect.
Yeah, that's a lovely combination of personal and professional development. I think people find that they succeed more when they bring that personal side of them to work. So I love the 5 C's, what your dad taught you. That's wonderful. So Fabi, let's talk about what made you want to be a part of the Mentor Match program as somebody who's basically diving in feet first to everything that we have going on to the chamber. What called to you?
Yeah, well, one of the things that I guess I kind of struggle with as a professional is that I am a very introverted person. So I was constantly kind of looking for ways to step outside my comfort zone, but also, not necessarily like living in the community where I worked. I wanted to still get involved in the North Fulton community as well. So when my supervisor suggested the mentor match program, I looked into it and I looked at it as an opportunity to kind of meet new people, network, grow myself, but then also be able to like form a connection, a lifelong connection, I hope, with someone that is really going to have my best interests at heart and that we can learn from each other as well.
Oh, that's wonderful. Congratulations to you, on graduating Leadership North Fulton, but also for making that investment in yourself. Because I tell people that are young professionals how important it is to develop your network immediately from a young age, because ideally these are people that you will carry with you throughout your career for 20, 30, 40 years, however long your career is going to be. And especially mentors like Paula that you can call on. 10 years from now, you'll have this foundation that you built everything upon. So I'm glad. And Paula, you're the person who in a mentor-mentee situation would be doing a lot of the giving of the mentoring. What is it that you hope to gain from this experience with Fabi?
So she has taught me a lot of stuff about the biology stuff. I mean, we took some walks and she's talking about certain things. She educated me about salamanders. Apparently that's how you know the ecosystem is doing well. I would have never known that. But it's such an awesome opportunity. I'm a mom of 2 adult children. And of course you're a mentor to them, but you're their mom. To have a young woman who values and looks at me as someone who can teach her things, I mean, that makes my heart very full. And I've always been a person who loves to give. I mean, my entire life has been about service. Yeah. So I just was very honored when I was asked to be a mentor. And when Fabi, they put down the qualities and then we saw, oh my gosh, there were so many that matched up, loving nature and, hiking and all these things. I mean, on my phone, right? I have folders called nature of all my pictures and mushrooms because I love to take pictures of mushrooms in the ground.
How organized of you.
I know.
She's got a list. She's also got a list of places to hike. I think we both have like a lot of things on the same list in that folder of like random animals and nature and pictures.
That's awesome. I need to get on this list train. You guys are organized. I aspire to be like you. And so, Fabi, what about you? When you thought about joining this program, was there something specific you wanted to gain, or what were you hoping to get out of it?
I guess, like I said, just being able to step out of my comfort zone, being a very introverted person, like something like this that we're doing right now is not something that I ever would have been like, oh, I would love to get up and talk into a microphone for a bunch of people. But the opportunity is obviously great to be able to have these kinds of conversations and get information out into the community. And having to network with people, Paula has been kicking the baby bird out of the nest in that aspect. She's like, you just got to go up and talk to somebody. I was like, oh my God.
Said every extrovert ever.
Yes. Yeah, we're kind of opposites in that, but I think that's what makes it work.
Great. And do you guys have like a regular cadence of when you meet, what you decide to do? How do you decide what you're going to do when you get together?
I mean, we've scheduled 4 or 5. We're trying to follow the rules of, a chamber event, but I've been over to the Chattahoochee Nature Center. Our next thing, I know she's been extremely busy, so I didn't want to put a lot of pressure at this time, but the next thing we have to have her come over to my little office and see what I do.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
And we have to go on a hike as well.
Yes.
You got to cross something off your list together.
Yeah.
That would be great. Well, I mean, the Chamber is so grateful for the time and dedication our mentors have shown our mentees. Paula, what's your greatest takeaway from the program so far? Or how would you describe your experience?
I love it. I feel like it's very organized. I thought the way they did the activity when you first had to meet your person was adorable with the cards. You had to match up your jacks or your queen or whatever you were. And I remember seeing her walking because I was like, where's my person? And she was talking to somebody. Then I noticed her card. I went, oh, that's mine. So anyway, I think this program is excellent, but I do believe you have to put in the energy. You have to have 2 people willing to make it work or it's not going to work. But I thought it was an excellent, I don't know how many years it's been going on.
We're on year 3, I think.
Oh, okay.
And so it's a new program that I know that Callie's very passionate about. And fortunately, we've had a lot of members take us up on being these mentors for our young professionals.
Yeah.
So thank you for jumping into that boat and doing what you could.
Oh, no, I absolutely think it's a fantastic program. And again, but it takes 2 people who are willing to make it work.
Yeah. And speaking of 2 people, relationships and knowledge are key when gaining experience from this kind of relationship. Fabi, what's your greatest takeaway from your mentor so far? What have you learned from our friend Paula Fine?
Oh my goodness, I've learned so many things. Speaking of lists, she gave me like a list of books that I've been going through as well. On my Goodreads, there's so many things just from those. Yeah. There's so many things from our conversations that I've learned in terms of like how to talk to people, how to mitigate conflict, how to introduce yourself to someone that you don't know. A great way to come up with like work-life balance. There's so many things that I think in our conversations that I've learned a lot from Paula. And I'm so glad the Chamber has done this program. I think it's a great opportunity. I'm very thankful to be a part of it.
Wonderful. And Paula, thinking about people who might be considering doing this program in the future as a mentor, who might wonder to themselves if they have something to offer to a mentee. Did you experience any kind of self-doubt or thoughts about what you needed and then had like a plan to go in to talk to Fabi about, or how would you approach it if you were somebody considering?
Well, being the extrovert that I am, so these kinds of things come easy to me.
Sure.
And when I first met her, I just knew it really was a perfect match. So, advice for people, I think, would be for someone who wants to share their growth from what they accomplished and they feel good about it, and offer advice, but also really take into consideration the person that they're being a mentor to, and see what they need out of the relationship. Because a person could come in with one direction, but really being a good listener and seeing what that other person needs. So that's what my advice.
Yeah, that's key. Relationships are a two-way street. It's certainly knowing what you can gain and what you can give. I love that. Well, this program is ending in November, so you guys are just a few months away from finishing your completion. What advice would you give to those interested in this program for next year, Fabi?
I would definitely say just kind of throw yourself into it. I'm definitely a planning person. As an event supervisor, I'm constantly thinking about like plan A through Z, and I'm not great at winging it. But this is one of those programs where it's like, yeah, you kind of have a list of guidelines of things, but you really just have to go into the experience, not really sure what to expect, but being ready to receive whatever you do get, and being able to be flexible and kind of creative and just come up with, ideas on the fly of like what you would like to do, and do a little research and think about what you would like to learn and what you would like to study, and making sure to have an actual interest in your mentor or your mentee and what they do. Because I think that's, what Paula and I share is interest in each other's careers and jobs and passions. And even though I may not have had a plan for, walking into this program, I just knew that I was going to go with the flow.
That's wonderful. Yeah, I think it's always important to remember that you can always develop. Even I'm sure Paula has learned things from you.
Absolutely.
And that's been a give and take. And so people can learn from each other, but having that self-awareness about what it is that you want to take away from an experience, I think is key, and something that everybody should think about when they're thinking about investing in themselves in this way. So speaking of that list, let's hear a recommendation from that list of books you got, Paula. What would you recommend to our lovely listeners?
Well, because of the North Fulton Chamber, there was a woman that was part of the North Point Church, and she told us about this amazing speaker, author named Patrick, I think it's Lencioni, I never pronounce his name. It's called The 6 Types of Your Working Genius. That book to me is amazing because it teaches you what your true gifts are And like, why do you enjoy your job? Because that's your genius. So they give you 6 different types. And the reason Patrick wrote the book is because he was miserable. He owned the company, and there were things he was miserable. And so the whole team got together and figured it out. And this book is phenomenal. And then the second book is called The Go-Giver. It's fantastic.
That sounds a bit different from your usual book.
Yeah, because it's a story, and it's about being a giver, and life will work out when you're not always thinking about what you can get out of life, but what you can give. And it's amazing how things happen.
That's lovely.
Yep.
And I actually read the 6 Types of Working Genius. It was a great book. It kind of changed my entire perspective of my work life and how I go into meetings and how I converse with like certain members of my team. I took it to my supervisor and I was like, have you read this? And she said, yeah, that's one of my favorite books. And we kind of talked over it and talked about like our geniuses and how we communicate. And we decided that we're going to try and make it a team thing. I think they have a team map as part of the program where everyone has like their geniuses and their frustrations and kind of mapping out where everyone lands and how we can best communicate and work with each other. So Paula's reaching people she's never even met.
Look at that. That's awesome. That's like a tangible takeaway that has turned into something that can benefit you at work. I love to hear that. So what about any other leaders or podcasts that you listen to or anything else that you do to professionally develop yourself?
I love Brene Brown.
I love her too.
Unbelievable TED Talks. Yeah, she's great. I'm a big believer in vulnerability, and that's what's missing in a lot of leaders in our world. In so anything I can grab onto that's going to develop me as a person, because it doesn't matter how old you are, like you mentioned, we can keep learning and growing. So yeah,
I love that.
I actually really love the Ologies podcast. I don't know if any of you are familiar with them.
I haven't heard that one.
It's by Allie Ward, and they're called Ologies because they could be anything from ichthyology to mammalogy. And she basically just interviews scientists, ecologists, biologists from all over the world. And they talk about completely random topics. So it could be something I know nothing about, like worms. And they'll fill like an hour and a half of a podcast about worms and things you would never know, like how when you split the brain of a worm and how it can grow back and how they're trying to apply that into like human healing and neurology. So it's just an amazing wealth of knowledge. It's a great podcast to listen to on your drive to and from work because you just learn random things about random animals, and then you can go talk about them with your coworkers.
That's that wildlife biologist coming out of you there.
Yeah, like you didn't need 10,000 facts about raccoons, but I mean, why not?
But now you have them. You're equipped.
So funny you should say that. I'm such a nerd. I'm on the Georgia Snake Identification Facebook page.
Same.
Yeah. Well, guess what? I was in Greensboro, North Carolina recently. And this little girl screamed, and it was like a little creek, and I had my phone, and we saw the snake that was inside the rocks, and they're all saying, oh, it's a copperhead. And I'm thinking, no, it's not a copperhead. But guess what I did? I took my phone out, reached out to the Facebook page, 30 seconds response. And I took a great picture of this snake, and they said, no, it's a harmless water snake. And then he gave me the scientific, which I'll tell you later, Fabi. But anyway, it was a harmless water snake, and I yelled to the man, it was harmless, it's okay. But anyway, that's what's so cool about Facebook on the snake identification. They'll let you know immediately.
Look, I love that because I think I'm with everybody else. My husband thinks everything's a rattlesnake or a water snake. Everything. It could be a tiny little brown garden snake.
Yeah.
It would be a copperhead. Yeah,
that's a pretty common on the snake ID. Everyone thinks it's a copperhead, and it's pretty much always
it's like your biggest fear
snake.
jumps. It's like the first thing you think of.
That's right. And I will tell you, copperheads have Hershey kisses throughout their body.
Yes.
They're big. That's how you know.
That's how you know. And you didn't know that you were going to get random facts about snakes today, but you're welcome. Great. So tell me, Paula and Fabi, how can our listeners find you, your website, social media, whatever you'd like to share with them?
Sure. So we are trinitylifeathome.com. Should I give my work phone number out? I don't know.
You can do it. I
can give the office number. I'll give the office number. If anyone needs help, post-op recovery care, or help with an adult, a parent that is struggling with dementia or fall risks, please call us. I'm Paula Fine, and the office number is 678-731-0831. It's just a conversation. Thanks.
She comes with singing and snake tidbits. And what about you, Fabi?
So if you have any questions about events at the Chattahoochee Nature Center, or if you just are curious about what we do, you can give the Nature Center a call, and that number is 770-992-2055, and our wonderful front desk assistants will get you to the departments appropriate to your inquiry, or you can visit us on our website, which is chatnaturecenter.org.
Wonderful. Well, thank you both for joining me so much today. I had fun.
Yes, thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you.
Of course. And I also want to thank our listeners for joining us on the GNFCC 400 Insider, presented by the Greater North Fulton Chamber. To listen to the show again or to hear any of our previous episodes, visit GNFCC400insider.com or any of your favorite podcast platforms. And to find out more about applying for Mentor Match Program and to learn more about the Greater North Fulton Chamber events and programs, visit GNFCC.com. Until next time, I'm Rebekah Anderson, and this has been the GNFCC 400 Insider on Business Radio X.